All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're untangling something that is, frankly, a massive deal for millions of government employees across India. We're talking about the Great Pension Debate. We're going to solve the puzzle behind three key acronyms: OPS, NPS, and the new one on the scene, UPS. So, what is all the fuss about? Well, it really boils down to this one single question. Is getting a guaranteed pension for life a dream scenario, a fundamental right after a lifetime of service, or is it actually a ticking financial time bomb for the government? That's the conflict, right there, that we're going to explore. Okay, let's start at the very beginning. To understand where we're going, you have to know where we've been. And that means talking about the system that set the standard for decades, the old pension scheme, or OPS. Now, the most important phrase here is defined benefit. Think of it like a solid promise. The government basically said to anyone who joined before 2004, you work for us and we promise you a specific, predictable pension for the rest of your life, no matter what the stock market does. And from the employee's side, this deal was incredible. Just imagine, you don't contribute a single rupee from your salary. Then, when you retire, you get half of your last paycheck every single month for life. And on top of that, it automatically goes up with inflation. It was the absolute gold standard of security. But, and there's always a but, isn't there? That last point is the killer. Paying for all of these promises started to create a massive and frankly unsustainable financial weight on the government. So that unsustainable burden, it forced a really dramatic change. And that brings us to the government's big solution, a total system overhaul called the National Pension System, or NPS. With NPS, the whole philosophy got turned on its head. We went from defined benefit to defined contribution. So the promise is no longer about the final check you get. Nope, it's all about what you and the government put into the system. Your retirement savings are now tied directly to how the markets are doing. So here's how it works. You put in 10% of your salary, the government kicks in 14%, and it all goes into this pot of money that gets invested. When you retire, you can take 60% of that pot as a big tax-free chunk of cash. But, and this is a huge deal, the other 40% you have to use it to buy something called an annuity, which is basically a private pension plan. The monthly amount you get isn't guaranteed at all. It depends on how your investments performed over decades and what the annuity rates are on the day you retire. Essentially, all that risk that the government used to hold, it got shifted right onto the employee's shoulders. Now, as you can probably imagine, that shift created a lot of anxiety. That lack of a guarantee was a massive change, and it led to a lot of pushback. People wanted a better way. And that brings us to the very latest idea on the table, the Unified Pension Scheme, or UPS. You can think of UPS as the government's attempt to find a middle ground, a compromise. It's a direct response to all the worries caused by the NPS, and it tries to bring back some of that old-school security while keeping the financial discipline of the new system. And this is where you can really see them trying to create a hybrid. UPS brings back the single most popular feature of the old system, a guaranteed minimum pension, 50% of your last salary with inflation protection baked in. But you still have to contribute to your fund, just like an NPS, and you still get to benefit from that big pot of money your investments have hopefully grown into. It's a real attempt to create a safety net without completely breaking the bank. All right, enough theory. We've talked about how these systems are supposed to work, but what does it all mean for an actual person's bank account after they retire? It is time for the showdown. Let's put some real numbers on this and see how these schemes actually compare. This is where all those abstract ideas like defined benefit and defined contribution get really, really clear. We're about to see exactly what each of these systems would deliver at the end of a long career.
So to keep it simple, let's just imagine a government employee who's retiring, and their final basic salary is a nice round number, 1 lakh rupees a month. We'll use that as our benchmark for everything.
And wow, the results are pretty shocking. Under the market-based NPS, our employee might get a monthly pension of around 24,000 rupees. Under the old guaranteed OPS, that jumps way up to a solid 70,000. But then look at the proposed UPS. It actually comes out on top at almost 94,000 rupees a month. Wait a second, how is that possible? Let's break it down. Okay, this table gives us the full story. With OPS, the pension is high and it's protected from inflation, but you don't get a big lump sum payout when you retire. With NPS, the monthly pension is way lower and has no inflation protection, but you do walk away with a huge chunk of cash, in this case, 72 lakh rupees. And this is what makes UPS so interesting. It looks like it gives you the high inflation-proof pension of the old system plus the massive lump sum from the new system. It kind of looks like it has it all. So after that pretty dramatic comparison, what's the final verdict? What's the bottom line in this whole complex pension puzzle? Well, it really gets to the heart of the conflict, doesn't it? It all depends on your perspective. If you're the employee, security is everything. So for you, the old OPS is the best, followed by the new UPS, with the risky NPS dead last. But if you're the government, trying to manage the country's finances, your list is the complete opposite. The predictable, low-cost NPS is the best, and the super expensive, guaranteed OPS is the worst. And UPS sits right there in the middle, as the potential compromise for both sides. So if we boil it all down, here are the key takeaways. OPS, an amazing deal for employees but a financial nightmare for the country. NPS fixed the government's money problem but created a whole new world of uncertainty for retirees. And UPS, the ambitious new attempt to strike a balance that just might work for everyone. And that brings us right back to that fundamental question we started with. As India moves forward, this is the decision it has to make. Is a guaranteed future a right that people earn through a life of public service? Or is it a risk that a growing economy just can't afford to take? The answer is going to shape the lives of millions for decades to come. Thanks for joining me for this explainer.